Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome once again to another Enough Already podcast. My name is Fingers Malloy. Tracy L. Connors is my lovely co-host here. We want to welcome our listeners and viewers, not only in the United States, but, of course, worldwide. Tracy L. Connors via the World Wide Webs. That's what they call it, the World Wide Webs. You can catch the Enough Already podcast wherever good podcasts are sold. And, of course, now, thanks to the hard work of Tracy L. Connors and her production team, you can watch the Enough Already podcast on BitChute and YouTube. Tracy, we have a lot to get to today. We could start off with creepy Joe Biden. We could go with Jussie Smollett, because there's a lot going on there. Jussie. But before we get to that, we obviously really the big story that continues to be talked about is the Mueller report and the Russia Gate fallout. And the media is still grasping at straws, Tracy, trying to make some of this stick. You know, there's calls by Democrats to release the full report. And I think you and I both agree we want to see the full report released, correct?
Absolutely. I haven't seen anybody come out and say, I don't want to see the report.
Yeah, but they've created this false narrative out there that there are apparently many people saying we don't need to see the whole report. We don't need to see the report at all. It doesn't need to be released. And I haven't heard anyone really say the report shouldn't be released. It's just that they have to go through the proper procedure to have the whole report released.
Imagine that. We thought we were going to catch the president for lawlessness. Now we're asking the attorney general to be lawless just so we can see this damn report sooner rather than later.
And before we get to, you've got a great video that you found on, I believe, Twitter.
Yes, James Woods.
Yes, James Woods tweeted it, a video montage of media types, talking heads, talking about how this was, there's always this was the tipping point. New bombshell report. We heard this over and over again for 2 years. I have a theory, Tracy, about this report. And being that MSNBC has gone completely conspiracy theory, why can't I throw a conspiracy theory out there?
Go for it.
This Mueller investigation, this Mueller report, to me, if there's nothing in it that will help Democrats, this seems a little bit Breitbartian. If it could be handled in a way that Andrew Breitbart would handle it, and it's this the whole drip, let a little bit out at a time. Would it be advantageous to the Trump administration to let Democrats continue to become completely unglued by this report not being released immediately, and let them continue to run to cameras and microphones screaming that this report needs to be released? Let them continue to do so, and then finally release it, and then let the American people see that this is a huge, I know you like this term, nothing burger. And wouldn't that make the Democrats look foolish if you're seeing them having a complete conniption over this daily, and then it's like, okay, well, here it is, here's the report, and there's nothing in it that would help them?
Well, it's a fair point. They've been doing it for 3 years now almost. I mean, prior to the Mueller report, they were freaking out about Trump-Russia. And then since the Mueller investigation began, which is just under 2 years ago, they've been doing exactly what you're saying, running to the microphones and saying, we need to see this report, we need to see this report. So it's nothing different. I don't think it helps them to continue talking about it. I keep hearing from those on the left who were not in the Russiagate conspiracy camp that this has really been a distraction and they should be talking about issues that people care about. And when you see national polls and people are asked what's the most important issue, the last one I saw was 0% thought that the Russia investigation was the number one issue. Zero. So it helps it helps Trump tremendously, I think, if they keep talking about this. So maybe that's what's going on. But you think Bob Barr has a little Breitbart in him?
Well, at the very least, it certainly seems that way. But I'm always looking for a conspiracy theory. And here we are, and we're talking about this Russia investigation and the Mueller report. Meanwhile, gas prices are creeping up. I believe the fourth quarter GDP numbers were revised down.
Yes.
Nobody's talking about that. All it is Mueller, 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 Mueller. And why not? I mean, they can't stop talking about MSNBC. This was their whole business model.
CNN as well.
Yes.
I mean, they've tried to distance themselves a little bit more now than MSNBC has. MSNBC is not giving this up.
And they're trying to pivot now away from collusion to obstruction of justice.
Oh, it was never about collusion.
Right.
It was always about obstruction.
And I'm no lawyer. That may surprise you, Tracy. I'm no lawyer, but obstruction of justice when you didn't commit a crime? I don't know. I know it's possible.
It is. I think that's. I can't remember who I heard talking about this, if it was Toobin or one of the other lawyers that appear on television more than in courtrooms. Mm-hmm. But one of them pointed out that, I guess it was Scooter Libby maybe, that went down for obstruction. That's what they got him on. And there was no crime. He wasn't the one that leaked Plame's information. So
but
it is possible.
Court of public opinion.
Right. But in the legal framework, it is possible to go down for. I can't even think of the damn word. What are we talking about now?
Obstruction of justice.
Collusion, obstruction. It is possible to go down for obstruction without there being an underlying crime.
I think if the Trump campaign, because basically we saw a campaign event in Grand Rapids, Michigan recently. We're already into 2020, even though we're in March of 2019.
The Democrats are out doing it.
Absolutely. And you saw Beto O'Rourke 2 days after Mueller turned over the report and there was the summary that came out saying there was no collusion. Beto O'Rourke was still saying that it was clear that candidate Trump at the time, colluded with the Russians.
He's not the only one saying this. Half the people on television are still saying this. Well, there's plenty of evidence. We've all seen it. Okay, well, it didn't rise to the level that would warrant an indictment. Can we just agree to that? We know you guys believe that having a meeting in your own building with some people that are Russian, everybody becomes an agent of the Kremlin. Any Russian you could possibly meet obviously is working for Putin.
Right.
So that team that came in there to meet with Trump Jr. and Manafort and Jared and all those guys, they were definitely agents.
That Putin's a powerful cat.
He owns everybody. He's the most powerful man in the universe. I wonder how bummed they are over there.
Right?
Yeah.
It's got to be like a TV series, maybe like Fear Factor or something, that or a Deal or No Deal that captured the Americans' imagination and then just fell off. Like what was the you are the weakest link. Goodbye. Remember that lady?
Yes.
She was all over the place. And then just like that, she dropped off the face of the earth. And now this is what's happening with the whole Putin story. It's gonna be like, wait a minute, no, I'm still really powerful.
Yeah.
Don't ignore me, or I'll shut down your electrical grid. I'll do it
again. Well, I do think I think they might shift back over to the Russia stuff, because I haven't heard it discussed very much, but in the 4-page summary that Barr turned over, he mentioned the fact that they did provide evidence that shows that Russia was responsible for the hacks. And that then they use WikiLeaks as a conduit to put out that information.
Okay.
So I think that's interesting, because I still don't believe that. I feel like we've seen enough evidence to the contrary on that. But they're going to come back to, we got to do a whole bunch of cybersecurity upgrades that haven't been done because Trump doesn't care, because they did help him and he was in on it, and that's how we know, more evidence, blah, blah, blah. But I think that'll be an interesting fight to have. I can't wait to read the whole report.
Bottom line, if Hillary Clinton just would have visited Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania a little bit more, maybe we'd be talking about President Hillary Clinton today.
What a pity.
Yeah. Russians. But going back to how we let off the show, you came across this video that James Woods tweeted, and James Woods is Twitter gold. If you aren't following him, you need to. It was a montage from MSNBC, CNN.
There's some Fox Business in there. You see Kennedy come up a couple times.
What network is Democracy Now! On?
That's its own network.
It is? I thought it was a show on a network.
No, I think it's a standalone.
You know what? You're right.
Network.
Yeah, and then they have different shows on Democracy Now!
Correct.
Okay. Well, the Democracy Now! Host is on there as well. Amy Goodman.
Yes.
So
this is all the hyping of this is the final shoe's going to drop. You know, but it's reminiscent. Yeah.
The walls are, what is it? Caving in or
closing in?
Closing in. Yeah.
And it's reminiscent of the audio montages that Limbaugh does on his show to prove that they all use the same set of talking points, and they'll get fixated with a phrase or a word, and then they repeat it across channels. And
gravitas.
Yes.
Everyone was saying gravitas.
Yes.
Yes.
And it also you'll hear that they have one mantra for a little while, and then it shifts, and they go to another one and another one. I think there might be 3 total, and then it kind of loops back around. And that was a point I believe that we might have discussed before that Molly Hemingway had made, comparing the way the media treats Trump to the way that the AI in Westworld are, and that's that the AI in Westworld are put on a loop that they just perform over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what the media does. So they get into the he's a racist part of their loop. Then they go to he's crazy and we should use the 25th Amendment to remove him part of the loop. And then it's he's a Russian agent part. And it just goes around and around like that. So now let's finally get to this video that we've hyped. I hope everybody finds it as entertaining as we do.
Breaking news.
A bombshell.
Today is a turning point. Today was historically bad for President Trump.
Today was a turning point.
A turning point.
We're at a turning point here.
The beginning of the end for the Trump presidency.
The beginning of the end.
And breaking news.
We have another bombshell.
Mike Pence might have to assume the office of the presidency.
The call for impeachment.
Rumblings of the word impeachment.
Breaking news.
Another bombshell out of the White House.
I believe this is the beginning of the end.
I do too.
And just so everybody that's only listening knows, this is all from 2017, spring of 2017. Okay. Are we not going to cooperate and start playing again now?
The man had just been inaugurated. We're already talking impeachment.
I do too.
It's really the beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end.
He may be feeling the walls closing in on him.
All the walls closing in on him.
The walls closing in on him.
Breaking news, a new bombshell.
One astrologer says this means the beginning of the end for President Donald Trump.
The beginning of the end of the Trump presidency.
Trump will resign.
Trump is going to resign.
Is this the tipping point? I know we've said it over and over.
You think this is a tipping point?
And over and over.
This is a tipping point.
And over and over.
Breaking news, President Trump off the rails.
It was the beginning of the end today.
The beginning of the end.
It reminds me a lot of the last days of Nixon.
Breaking news tonight, new bombshell.
This is the beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end.
The walls are closing in.
The walls closing in.
The walls closing in.
Breaking overnight bombshell.
This is a very dramatic day, and I think it might be near a tipping point. Do you think this is a tipping point?
This is unbelievable. This is remarkable. Have you ever seen anything like this?
His presidency is crippled.
December 1st, 2017, you can mark it down. This is the day that everything changed.
We begin with the bombshell.
The beginning of the end?
The beginning of the end.
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 The beginning of the end. In fact, if this were a football game, we're in the third quarter. May even be the beginning of the end.
We begin tonight with the bombshell. Donald Trump is in a lot of trouble.
Trump is in trouble.
The president will resign.
Another hour, another bombshell.
This is a tipping point.
Trump's going down.
This president could be impeached.
I do not think the president will serve out his term.
Resignation. I don't think this president is going to serve out his term.
Mr. Trump will not serve out his term.
He will not serve out his term.
No way, no how.
Breaking news.
Absolute bombshell. I think Donald Trump is in trouble.
Donald Trump is not. He's done. And it's...
Oh, man. So that only goes through June of 2018.
And there was creepy porn lawyer.
Yep.
And I couldn't help but thinking to myself, bitch, you're going to jail.
He's innocent until proven guilty, Fingers.
Oh, that's true. And creepy porn lawyer would know about that. So
Yes,
Michael Avenatti, arrested. The feds have him, was it for allegedly blackmailing Nike?
He was going to extort Nike, I believe was the deal.
Oh, extort. Pardon me.
Yes, come on.
$20 million or something?
Oh, no, I think it was 200 million. I thought it was
200 million.
Yeah, I thought there were multiple zeros on that one.
Wow. Well, listen, how does this hurt his presidential campaign in 2020, Tracy O'Connor?
I don't know. He might be all right.
That'd be something if he continues to run.
Yeah.
I would think he has other things that he should tend to, but who knows nowadays. The way to really get his campaign going, though, I'm sure, is that we should start a GoFundMe page for him.
Oh yeah.
Of course, that money would go to our beach house as part of our scam pack.
Of course.
But still,
everybody understands that anymore.
I would hope. The funny thing is about this whole thing, and I wanted to say this right after you stopped playing that video, is I know that both of us probably come across as Trump slappies.
Yeah, potentially.
But I don't really consider myself one. But the way the media has behaved the last couple of years, it makes me want to run out and get a MAGA tramp stamp. It really does. And I freely admit I voted for him in 2016, not enthusiastically so much as it was my chance to vote not Hillary in a way that I thought was meaningful. And I've been pleasantly surprised for the most part regarding his performance. There are a few things I take issue with, but for the most part, it's been a pleasant surprise, Tracy. But this stuff right here, the way that the media has been behaving really ever since he got elected, and even before that, but this has been an absolute train wreck. And I have to keep bringing up Andrew Breitbart's name, but I was a big fan of his, and he was right when he would say over and over again that the mainstream media as it is now needs to be destroyed. This is awful. I mean, these are not reporters, these are advocates.
Would you say that they're the enemy of the people?
They sure aren't acting like the friend of the people. That's for sure. Am I off base, Tracy? Do you disagree with me?
No, not at all. No. Oh, come on. No, absolutely not. You know how much I loathe them. I just find it amusing, though. But I know it's dangerous. You got a bunch of people walking around thinking one thing, and then another bunch of people walking around thinking the exact opposite, and they both have a stack of evidence to point to confirm their worldview.
Yeah, we're in a post-news society.
Post-truth.
Yeah, post-truth. That's fine. You've got different networks, including Fox News, different cable networks, throwing out narratives. That's why I like calling CNN the cable narrative network instead of the cable news network. And they try to take news stories, and they're almost like pieces of a puzzle that will fit into this narrative puzzle. And if that particular news story does not fit in the puzzle of the narrative that they're trying to push, then it's either not reported or it's underreported, because the narrative is much more important than informing the American public.
Absolutely. Well, I think you and I were shocked to learn both of us watched a video of Glenn Greenwald's appearance on Democracy Now!, which is a great network that both you and I enjoy, where they allow people to actually have conversations and the host doesn't yell over them. They don't tend to yell over each other. And so it was Greenwald and some guy that I can't remember his name, but he was a professor or some such. And it was a discussion about the way that the media's behaved with this Russia story. And it went on for, 35, 40 minutes? Just back and forth. And it was for the first time it dawned on me that, holy hell, people on CNN and MSNBC haven't heard the other side of this story.
Right.
At all. They've just kept that clear of their airwaves.
Well, and Glenn Greenwald claims that he had been banned from MSNBC because he wasn't one of these liberal journalists talking heads that was going along with the Russian story, that he, was calling bullshit early on. And that kind of analysis was not welcome on CNN because it wasn't fitting the narrative.
Right. Well, on MSNBC more so than CNN. I think he was way more frequent of a guest on MSNBC.
And if you have an opportunity, and maybe Tracy, if you could include that in the show notes this week, which you could find over at enoughалready.us, maybe a link to that video of the Democracy Now! Show. He really went after Rachel Maddow hard.
Yes. Well, he's been doing it on Twitter too since the story broke, since the report was turned in.
Right, and we were talking about this before we started recording. The ratings are in for the week after the report was turned over, and it's not good news for CNN or MSNBC. I've got a piece here from the AP. Rachel Maddow isn't backing away from her coverage of President Donald Trump and any connection to Russia's involvement in trying to influence the 2016 presidential campaign. The question is how much her fans want to listen. Maddow's audience has dipped on her 2 days back on the air since Attorney General William Barr reported that Special Counsel Robert Mueller had found no collusion between Trump and Russia's efforts. Her audience of 2.5 million on Monday was 19% lower or below her average this year, and it went down further to 2.3 million on Tuesday, the Nielsen company said. So the question is, are fans of MSNBC abandoning the network because the network in their minds is not as credible as it once was, or as and do you have this video clip of Scott Adams?
Yes.
Throw Scott Adams up there and his theory, and let's have a discussion over what you think the reasons are for the viewership dip over at MSNBC and CNN.
All right, here's Scott.
Apparently the ratings for CNN and MSNBC just fell off a cliff. As soon as the Russia collusion thing was revealed as the hoax that it was, their traffic, Tucker said that at least one night their traffic was down by 50%. I've seen other numbers, but it's somewhere in the 20 to 50% range. They dropped, and it was immediate. And here's the thing that Tucker didn't say, which is even funnier. So the ratings from Rachel Maddow show and MSNBC and CNN dropped a lot. But what they don't say is that of the remaining viewers, the people who are actually watching CNN and MSNBC, a pretty large proportion of them were conservatives who just went to laugh. So probably,
which is absolutely true. I did that. I don't know if you tuned in at all.
No, I've been relying on Twitter to do its best job of just providing me with clips. I don't watch cable news at all. I get my news from the internet, and there were the first night, people were throwing that clip out there everywhere of a very somber Rachel Maddow. Looked like she was crying. Yeah. But we don't. We'll have to get the boys in the lab to take a look at that video to see if there were actual tears. But it looked close. She looked a little misty. I think people were
seeing things that weren't there because they wanted to.
Oh, you don't think she was misty?
No.
She wasn't choking up a little bit?
I watched it. I watched it, and then I saw that little screen grab go everywhere, and I thought, my God, we're really grasping here, people. Like, she's not that devastated. She seems to not have acknowledged reality still. So I told her I tuned in on Monday to see what she was going to say, because Friday night's show was only after Mueller had dropped off the book report, and we didn't get Bob Barr's summary until Sunday afternoon. So the first time she's on air after the summary's been released, where we get no collusion and no obstruction, I wanted to see where she's going to go with this. Because, I mean, it couldn't be any more definitive. I thought maybe she'll go with the line that everybody else seems to be going with. Well, we need to see the whole report, because there's so much evidence, and he said he didn't have enough to exonerate him and left it up to Barr, and we all know that Barr's just a Trump lackey, and he wrote that memo about how the president can never be indicted, and this is the fix is in, right? So I thought maybe she would go with that. But no, she's all, I'm going to tell you a little story about Richard Nixon, and starting with the Saturday Night Massacre, I think, and then on to, all the investigation into him, and when that was all turned over to Congress, blah, 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 blah. And
she's connecting the dots, Tracy.
It was 12 minutes of that. I'm like, holy God.
Did she bring up the Teapot Dome scandal?
That's next
in this
week.
Analysis. Oh, good. Okay.
That's when the full report comes out, and it's a complete disaster for them, and they have to finally give this up. Not that I think they'll ever give this up.
Well, no, and I think Scott Adams is right as far as I believe he, a little further down in that video clip, talks about how the reason why the ratings dipped isn't really because there is a loss of credibility from the networks, at least in the minds of the people who are devoted fans of, say, a Rachel Maddow. It's just they don't want to hear the bad news, and they know that they're going to be talking about the bad news over there. Look, Rachel Maddow is a good foot soldier. She's part of that movement, and people will turn a blind eye when people on their side, part of their tribe, makes a mistake. And I think that's what we're seeing here is, okay, you know what? They have been wrong the last couple of years. They've been pushing this false narrative. And now it's come, people are finding out that what they've been reporting isn't true. And wow, you know what? I just need a break. I need to take a breath. I can't watch this right now. But they'll be back.
What Adams really got into is this idea that people were getting little dopamine hits watching this stuff. So the news has become entertainment. So people are wildly entertained by this. They want to believe all these awful things about Trump, and they're getting positive feedback from their brain, which is drugging them. And I think that's how he even explained it. Like they're getting drugged by watching this because your brain releases dopamine, which feels really nice. So they were getting that by watching Rachel every night. And I was getting it watching her on Monday. That's why I tuned in. That, oh my God, I'm going to relish the hell out of this, seeing her react to and where she's going to go. And maybe she will cry this time, although I don't think she cried the last time. But so, yeah, they'll be back when they've got a new scandal to push and a new angle for maybe we can get rid of him. Here comes the articles of impeachment again for whatever it is now. I bet you we're going to shift back to let's see his taxes. That'll be coming. We're reaching that part of the loop again.
Well, it's disappointing that you don't believe that she got misty. No. Because I was hoping she got misty. But listen, these people were so emotionally invested in this story that it wouldn't have surprised me if she got misty. But a lot of this is so much like professional wrestling, where the actors know, in this case, the talking heads, they know that this is a scam, just like professional wrestlers knew it was a scam.
Yeah.
But the people who are watching aren't in on it. So at the end of the day, here's Rachel Maddow. Oh, maybe she is upset. Well, listen, she's making $10 million a year. How upset is she really going to be?
Yeah, I think she'll be all right.
Right.
But where do they go from here?
Well, I think that they go. The story has to be corruption. That's where they go, and now the pivot will be towards, we're seeing these town halls of the different Democratic candidates who are running for president. I think that it would be smart if you're running a network like that, is just to try to pivot a little bit away from Russia and to these presidential candidates and start talking about the 2020 campaign, and act like the report confirmed everything that you believed about Donald Trump. You continue to have people like Elizabeth Warren run out there and say this is the most corrupt administration in American history, and then just have everyone nod their heads, in agreement that, oh, well, of course. I mean, he's been investigated ever since he
But I'm wondering, when is Mueller gonna talk? When are we gonna see him? I mean, are there producers over at CNN and MSNBC just constantly trying to get him to come on air?
Are you gonna explain yourself?
Yeah, sure. For anybody that's just listening, I decided to take a cue from Michael Malice, who I'm not sure whether or not he took this from Red Eye. It looks like something that Gutfeld would have done. But when we talk about people, I'm going to put up a little photograph on the screen of somebody who is not the person we're talking about, but with the name of the person we're talking about. So right now I've got a picture of Robert Kardashian labeled Robert Mueller up on the screen. And some of these Fingers has seen in advance, and some of them he has not. So my whole game here is to try to make him laugh with these, and hopefully people at home will laugh as well.
So if you're hearing me on the podcast, once again, you can catch the podcast wherever good podcasts are sold, laughing like Dr. Hibbert from The Simpsons in inappropriate moments, you'll understand why. It's because Tracy has put up another photo, and it's not the person who she claims it is. Jeez. She's got the next one up.
Well, this is the new villain in the story, Bob Barr. And for those of you who can't see it, it's a lovely photo of Janet Reno, former Attorney General. Yes. She's still with us, isn't she?
Oh, no, she passed away.
No, did she?
You're going to make me look this up, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't recall this.
I'm going to get on the Google machine right now. I'm pretty sure Janet Reno is no longer converting oxygen to carbon. Let's see here.
She's gone green.
Janet Reno died November 7th, 2016.
Oh, you win that one.
But she looks lovely in that photo.
Yeah, she really does.
Okay, so where are we going with this now? I completely lost my train of thought after I'm seeing these pictures.
Oh, we can transition out of this with our wonderful president and his wise words from his campaign rally in Michigan, which was Thursday night, I guess, was the first time he's hit the road since the Mueller report dropped. Of course, he had to comment about it, as only he can, and now everybody can act appalled again because presidents shouldn't speak like this.
The Democrats have to decide whether they will continue defrauding the public with ridiculous bullshit.
Oh, man.
Why does he have to do that?
Why not?
Look, I'm not going to pretend I'm offended by that, because Lord knows I've got a colorful vocabulary. But it's funny. I was going back in the archives not too long ago, and for those of you who don't know, I used to be an opinion writer over at the Washington Times, and I wrote a piece about Joe Biden, who we'll be talking about here in a little bit, getting in front of the mic and calling someone his butt buddy.
Biden did that.
Yes, and I made fun of the vice president of the United States calling someone his butt buddy, and how it wasn't the kind of language you would expect from the vice president. And again, Tracy with her photo magic has Harvey Weinstein his picture up. labeled as Joe Biden. But no, look, I get really irritated by people who act like they're offended, especially the people, the pundit class on the conservative side, many of whom I've gotten drunk with at the hotel bar, and to hear their vocabulary at 2:00 in the morning would make Donald Trump blush. And yet they act like they're so offended that the president would say something like this. That narrative irks me, but I don't know if I want to sit there with my, 9-year-old daughter at a campaign event and hear the president of the United States drop a bullshit line here and there. I think there are better ways. There are better ways to push back against all this stuff. But it's highly entertaining.
Yeah.
But it's I know this doesn't bother you nearly as it doesn't bother me all that much. I don't want to make it sound like it does. I just look at it and I'm like, oh man, really? Can't you really have to do that?
I just see this behavior and I think this is so great. This is on the pathway to getting rid of the presidency entirely. Look at what kind of a buffoon can end up being the president. And then he runs circles around everybody.
Right.
You spend 2 years investigating him and you can't find anything good enough to take him down.
And this is what I find fascinating about the whole Trump-McCain thing is the amount of anger that must surge through people like Hillary Clinton, and before he passed away, John McCain, all these people who thought they were going to be president of the United States, who deserved to be president of the United States, should have been handed to them on a silver platter. And it for one reason or another, like Mitt Romney, these people, it just didn't work out for them. And then they see this buffoon in the White House and it just angers them. And it is marvelous to watch.
Yeah.
I will say that.
It gives me a big dopamine hit. I love it. That's why when I see him say something like that, I immediately think, oh, Fingers is going to be upset because his 9-year-old might have heard it. But then I also think, oh, my God, I wonder, I can cut to everybody's living room. There's Joe Scarborough and Mika. I don't think that they've been in the same place for the last 2 weeks. I don't know. Every time I'm watching in the morning, Joe's remote from D.C. and she's in New York holding down the fort. So I don't know that they would be in the same room when that happened, but I can see them both being aghast. They're probably texting their friends furiously. Brian Stelter's crying on the floor somewhere.
Yeah.
I can't believe this is real. You've got Hollywood melting down as if they're some, paragon of ethics and moral behavior, upstanding, fine citizens, all of them. But
yeah, they would probably be okay with 2 girls in a cup getting a government grant to be funded fully, or 2 Girls in a Cup Part 2 Electric Boogaloo. Right. But the president of the United States saying bullshit is just bridge too far.
They had Alan, why can't I think of his name? Baldwin, playing Trump on Saturday Night Live.
Right.
Who's the most famous thing that I can think of when I think of Alec Baldwin is that tape of him cursing out his kid.
You are a rude, thoughtless little pig.
Exactly.
That's what he called his own daughter.
I'm shocked that he hasn't thrown in for 2020. Everybody else is running.
Well, he's too busy, beating up couriers on bikes than to get involved in a presidential campaign. But, we brought up creepy Joe Biden.
Yeah.
And by the way, creepy Joe Biden, who not too long ago was one heartbeat away from the presidency. Now we're finding out what an evil human being Joe Biden is, as if no one knew about this kind of behavior until recently. And the behavior being how creepy he is around women, and not just women, young girls.
Yeah.
There was a Senate swearing-in ceremony. What was this, back in 2014, Tracy? I remember you and we were going back and forth. We were watching it live, and every time a new a person who was just elected to the Senate, or whoever's getting.
Everybody has to get sworn in.
Yeah, everybody was getting sworn in. Yeah, but it just seemed a little bit different with the newbies, because maybe this was the first time that creepy Uncle Joe was meeting the family. He would get really close to the senators' wives, and act really inappropriately towards the kids. I mean, like 8-10-year-old girls. He would crouch down and put his face right up against their heads, and the whole thing was just bizarre behavior. I remember you and I going back and forth while the whole thing was going on, going, what is this? If this guy were a Republican,
well, where are the Capitol Police?
Right?
Like, there's a huge presence there of security. Like, why isn't anybody tearing this creepy old man away from these little girls? And they looked uncomfortable what was going on.
Yes.
It's like, I guess I can understand why the senators, maybe they were distracted. Then they didn't notice this. But the wives standing there with the kids, it's like, I would have elbowed that old man right in the ribs, stepped on his foot, maybe kicked him in the nuts. I mean, he's such a disgusting perv. And you remember the stories about him going skinny dipping in front of the female Secret Service agents, and
right. He just thinks he's a handsome devil. He just thinks he could get away with whatever. Oh, that's just creepy Uncle Joe being creepy Uncle Joe. He'll just show you his pearly whites.
He's
and
just
get
a
away
little
with
handsy. It's just,
yeah.
That's all. It's totally innocent. Don't think anything of it.
Harmless.
Right. You'd think his wife too. Dr. Jill Biden. I think she'd say to him, "Hey, Joe, would you knock that stuff off?" I mean, my God, it's got to be embarrassing for her.
Oh, you would think, especially there are photos. There's a famous photo. I think he stopped by a biker bar or something.
Oh, yeah.
Where he's behind a biker babe and got the hands on the shoulders. Which apparently is his move. Which we're finding out this week. You've got a politician out of Nevada who ran for lieutenant governor in 2014.
Yes.
Talking about her story, and it was a campaign stop in Nevada, and do you have the photo of creepy Uncle Joe?
Yep.
The funny thing is, I don't know what's more amusing. Well, first of all, the biker babe actually looks like she's into it.
Yeah, she does.
The biker guys, not so much.
No.
Not a bunch of happy campers there, but
yeah, I wonder if he got a talking to.
Oh. If he weren't vice president of the United States, his teeth would have been his lunch there.
Yeah. I think the Secret Service intervened. Joe, we got to go. But I mean, yeah, you just do a Google search for Google image for him with, I just did Joe Biden biker chick. And now the rest of these creepy things are coming up, like the one you mentioned where I think it's Mitch McConnell's granddaughter. And he's kissing the top of her head and cupping her ears with his hands. And then there's Elaine Chao, who's now the Secretary of Transportation, just standing there kind of letting it go on. What do you do? You get him the hell off your kid.
Oh, no, I get thinking that when you're an outsider, and I would hope that I would be of the mindset that you are talking about, where you would be like, okay, or grab the kid and get the kid away from Chester.
Yeah.
But it's got to be weird. The part of you has got to be thinking, when you're walking up and seeing all this happen, thinking to yourself, my God, this is the vice president of the United States.
Right.
This is so strange. It's bizarre.
Well, is Obama going to have to answer for this?
Well, that answer is no.
Right. Nobody will get. Well, he's been nowhere, right? I haven't seen him in forever.
No, except maybe his wife putting herself in the middle of the Jussie Smollett story, but that's a little later down the road. But the creepy Uncle Joe story. So he's in Nevada at a campaign rally for someone who's running for lieutenant governor, a young woman.
Yes, her name is Lucy Flores.
Well, you have the story in front of you. Give us the highlights.
This is from New York Magazine too. So and I would like to preface this by saying that Scott Adams had talked about this idea that okay, you know, Trump's calling him creepy Uncle Joe, whatever, and everybody on the right knows these stories, but the people on the left don't, and don't expect it to pierce their bubble. No, they're not going to bring this to the fore. And then a couple days later, they're so serious, they're so committed to having a woman or a minority candidate at the top of the ticket that they're going after their own. So this is reported in New York Mag, then there's a follow-up, Vox has a follow-up, HuffPo has a story about it. So now the left is now woke to creepy Uncle Joe. So Lucy Flores wrote this piece herself. The title is An Awkward Kiss Changed How I Saw Joe Biden. So she gives her background, whatever. She was a 35-year-old Democrat nominee for lieutenant governor in Nevada, and there's nothing going on in Nevada at that point in time. So she said, all of a sudden, the vice president's office reaches out to her and says that he's coming to help her and other Democrats in the state. So she goes to this event. Eva Longoria is also there, and I've got another photo of him being creepy with Eva Longoria.
He seems to have a fetish where he likes to smell women's hair.
Right. I don't get it. It's a very strange, and it's the shoulders and the hair, and he'll also there's some other photos of him doing like the little reach around deal from the side. So she's talking about, she's lining up with the speakers backstage. You know, they're getting in order of who's going out there. And she says, as I was taking in deep breaths and preparing myself to make my case to the crowd, I felt two hands on my shoulders. I froze. Why is the Vice President of the United States touching me? And see, this is how I differ from these women, because if this happened to me, I would be like, get the F off of me right now.
Right.
And I have done that before, so this is not just conjecture or BS. But so she says, I felt him get closer to me from behind. He leaned further in and inhaled my hair. Oh, I was mortified. I thought to myself, I didn't wash my hair today, and the Vice President of the United States is smelling it. This is girl brain for you. That's the first thing.
I'm getting a peek inside?
Yeah, that's a peek inside.
Wow.
Like, oh my God, I knew I should have washed my hair. And now the Vice President is smelling me. He's going to tell everybody the creep that he is. Oh my God. So she says, and also, what in the actual fuck? Why is the Vice President of the United States smelling my hair? So he proceeded to plant a big, slow kiss on the back of my head. My brain couldn't process what was happening. I was embarrassed, I was shocked, I was confused. There's a Spanish saying, trágame tierra, and it means earth, swallow me whole. I couldn't move and I couldn't say anything. I wanted nothing more than to get Biden away from me. My name was called and I was never happier to get on stage in front of an audience.
Can you give me a little bit more of a peek into girl brain for a second, please?
Okay.
Because this is all foreign to me. Because look, when I was younger, and I would go out, in my 20s, I would have women from time to time make unwanted advances towards me. Mm-hmm. I had one, walk into a bar and just planted one on me. Never met her before.
Okay.
And I pulled away and thought that there was a good possibility that this woman may have gonorrhea herpes. So I went on with my day and told my friends about what happened. But I'm a guy, and I'm 6'3". Chances are there isn't a woman that's going to overpower me, and so when you have something like that happen, and forget for a second that this is the Vice President of the United States.
Right.
I'm sure you have been in many situations where a guy came on to you in a way that was inappropriate, and you just said that you dealt with it. Is this something, if it's not the Vice President of the United States, that you carry with you for the rest of your life? I mean, if someone if a guy came from behind and just put his hands on your shoulders and sniffed your hair, is it something that would be like, oh, I at night I still hear the screams? I don't get it. Please,
Well, I don't know. Nothing like that's happened to me, like that level of creepiness. And that might stick with you just because it's so weird and off-putting and it's unexpected. Like if some stranger that I didn't know, say I'm at a bar and somebody just walks up behind me and does that, I'm probably going to remember that for a really long time. Not that it would like haunt my dreams or anything or keep me awake at night, but if it's mentioned in passing, like when Me Too comes up, I'll be like, oh yeah, that guy that one time, whatever. Yeah. Potentially, I don't know. But I've had this discussion with girlfriends of mine being like, is there any incident that sticks out? Some of them have yes, and some of them have no, where they've just dealt with it and moved along and not dwelt on the whole thing. So it's a sticky situation when it comes to how girl brain's going to process events.
But it has to be a bizarre situation to be in when here you are, you're asking for some help from the vice president of the United States. And he's going to get up on stage and advocate for you to be elected to be the lieutenant governor of Nevada. And 30 seconds before you go on, he pulls a creepy Uncle Joe act and starts rubbing your shoulders and sniffing your hair. The funny thing, the weird thing about this too, let's say that he is full-blown Ted Kennedy. Okay.
Yeah.
Which I don't think he is because the stories would have come out by now. What are you gaining by right before the woman goes out on stage sliding up behind her and doing something like that? It's not going to lead to anything else. If you aren't a serial adulterer, it's not like you're going to get some sort of quickie backstage. I don't know. The whole
he's
thing
doing
is
to 9-year-old little girls. It's a weird fetish thing.
Yeah.
Maybe he's obsessed with shampoo smells. Who knows? It's like Norman Bates-esque. I mean,
eliminate the whole doing this to 9-year-old girls for a second, and let's just stick with adult women. I don't know what the payoff is here. I don't understand walking.
That's what I'm saying. It's a fetish thing.
It's gotta be.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about this, and going back to how you led off with the story, is now the left is starting to pick up on this behavior. And it seems to be the reason why is there is a large portion of the base of the Democratic Party who they don't have the stomach to put a white male at the top of the ticket again. There are too many options out there that are non-white males that are acceptable to be the nominee of the Democratic Party in their minds, and they want to do everything they can, at least some people apparently, to submarine the chances of a Joe Biden or a Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
And you had a piece, Mayor Pete.
Yes.
What's his name? Buttafuoco?
No, it's Buttigieg.
Buttigieg.
Yes.
Mayor Pete Buttigieg, South Bend's mayor, correct?
Correct.
Which, by the way, South Bend is a shithole, in case you keep a score at home. No offense to the fine folks in South Bend who I'm sure are listening right now, but not a great place. The first paragraph or two in this piece that you found, and was this in Salon?
Slate.
Oh, Slate. Was Mayor Pete's a white dude.
Yeah, the headline, it is Pete Buttigieg, just another stuff. Oh, that's who I should have used. I picked Mayor Quimby, but I should have gone Joey Buttafuoco. Next week, kids. Is Pete Buttigieg just another white male candidate, or does his gayness count as diversity? I mean, can you imagine even writing this sentence, let alone having that thought and thinking I should put this to paper? And I don't know. A lot of the times that, there's an editor that comes up with the headline, but
right.
My God, it's pretty accurate to what this whole piece is about. And we should preface this piece by saying this was written by a gay woman. So I guess that gives them a little bit of cover to kind of explore this idea.
Of course. It's okay if I say it.
Yes.
I've talked to a couple people who I trust, who say that he's actually very intelligent and level-headed. And it's funny, we don't have the piece in the doc, but I noticed that he wants to be a mediator between the LGBTQ community and Chick-fil-A because he's not subscribing to the whole idea that Chick-fil-A is serving their hate chicken to the masses and that Chick-fil-A hates the gays.
Yes.
And he wants to build a bridge. Tracy, and we all want to build a bridge.
Right.
Really.
I think that we should all get along.
Yeah, so it sounds like at least from the people that I've talked to when it comes to Mayor Pete, that he sounds a little bit more reasonable compared to the other nut jobs who are running for the Democratic nomination. Right. But he's a mayor.
Yes.
I think at this point, the last two presidents have proven that you really don't need any experience, and the American people don't seem to care anymore.
Correct.
I mean, it's very easy to forget that when Barack Obama announced that he was running for president, and there's Mayor Quimby, when Barack Obama announced that he was running for president, he had only been a senator for a cup of coffee.
Yeah. Obviously, Trump had never held office.
Right. So apparently experience doesn't matter. And, there are people who are serious that think that Oprah should run, maybe The Rock. So it really doesn't matter anymore.
No, it
maybe
doesn't.
Mayor Quimby should run.
Yeah. Why not? There's nothing in the Constitution that says a cartoon can't be the president. The only requirement is being 35 years old and a natural-born citizen.
And we're in probably the 33rd season of The Simpsons, so Mayor Quimby probably is 35.
There you go.
At this point.
But
or will be.
We've been talking about this off and on now for, 2-3 years. Like, the left is going to start eating itself in public in a very entertaining way. And that's what's going on with this. I mean, he's not gay enough, according to this writer. He didn't make that like a focal point of his personality. It doesn't define who he is. He apparently stayed quiet and closeted for a really long time. And then he said, you know what, I want to start dating people. So I'm going to just be honest and tell everybody that I'm gay. And okay, now he's married. His husband's pretty cute. He's pretty cute. Nobody cares. But so this woman's saying that, I love this. His face setbacks or has Buttigieg faced setbacks or barriers to success because he's gay? Does he have an identity-specific worldview that would inform his work as much as, say, Harris's? She's talking about Kamala. Experience as a black woman would inform hers. Would a win for Buttigieg be as historically significant and culturally meaningful as a win for a member of an underrepresented race or gender? This is the calculus that they're employing here to pick their presidential candidate?
Well, of course. And I found it amusing, too, that in this piece, it said that Mayor Buttafuoco was the first gay candidate who ever ran for president of the United States, which isn't true. I brought up to you earlier Fred Karger.
Who I had never heard of, and this was from 2020 or 2012, right?
Yeah, for 2012, he ran as a Republican, so
he doesn't count.
No, he's not a true gay because he ran as a Republican. But he actually came in fourth in the, I believe it was the Puerto Rico primary, and he was on the primary ballot in, I believe, 6 states.
Wow.
But he doesn't count because he was running as a Republican.
No.
But look, this is going to be very interesting as this unfolds to see this battle for the heart and soul of the Democratic Party, and you're going to watch candidates move farther and farther to the left, and there's going to be a significant part of the party base that is just going to say, and I don't mean to make this sound like this is a white supremacist podcast, because it's not. I don't give a shit who they nominate. I don't care what color they are. I don't care who they're sleeping with. But there is a certain percentage of that political base that is going to say, I don't want a white male at the top of the ticket.
Right. He does not have an identity-specific worldview that's informed by his gayness.
And the funny thing is, these are people that championed the political candidacy of Hillary Clinton, who who was anti-gay marriage until what, 2011?
Oh, I think it was after that. Don't you remember Biden is the one that dropped the dime on Obama and said, oh, yeah, he secretly supports it. And then that was going into the 2012 election. So she was after that, I believe. But, I mean, the way that this woman attacks Buttigieg, saying that he isn't just gay, he's also white, upper class, Hillary checks those two, Midwestern, Trump, check, married, check, Ivy League, no, she didn't go Ivy, and a man of faith. And we all know that Hillary, she carried around that Bible in her purse right next to the hot sauce.
Hot sauce.
Jesus.
Well,
it's really pathetic.
And it seems to me, talk about a political party, a group of people who don't want to learn from their mistakes. I mean, here you have a large group of white working class voters walked away from the Democratic Party, and in 2016, a lot of these people who used to be, you would identify them as Reagan Democrats, voted for Donald Trump. And if you want to get these people back in the fold, if you want to win in Wisconsin, if you want to win in Michigan, if you want to win in Pennsylvania, I'm not saying that you have to have a white presidential candidate. That's ridiculous. But I don't know if it's wise to be blatantly hostile toward white male candidates. Is that the kind of message that you want sent to these battleground states? Is, well, you know what? There's too much testosterone and white skin with these candidates. We can't have that.
Well, and think about it. All the states you just named, Barack Obama won twice.
Yes.
So it has nothing to do with that whatsoever. This is just, they're treating this as if it's central casting, and not as if let's find the person that's qualified and palatable to the American people. And it seems like they're doing everything they can to marginalize them. Like, they thought Biden was their ticket for a while, and then it was just like, oh, nope, we can't have that much whiteness at the top of the ticket. Even though he offered to pick up Stacey Abrams as his running mate, that's not enough. So now we're going to out him as a perv to the left who's never heard these things before.
And, of course, Stacey Abrams came out this week and said, well, why should I, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm qualified to be president of the United States.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I thought you were going to say she came out and said, Joe Biden never tried to smell my hair. What does he have against black women? Well,
the day is young. And you know what? She is qualified to be president of the United States.
Everybody that's over 35 and was born here is qualified.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, and really, if you want to save our democracy, you need to send $3 to the Fingers, Malloy, Tracy L. Connors scam pack so we can draft Stacey Abrams to be president of the United States.
I'm just going to put my Bitcoin wallet up on the site, and so people can just drop donations directly to us. Why even bother putting up a scam pack site?
Right. Well, Tracy, we've been at this for over an hour. We can either save the Jussie Smollett story for our lukewarm take, or if you want to dive head in right now, head first, we can go ahead and talk about it for a bit. It's up to you.
I think we should save it for the lukewarm take.
Okay. For those of you who don't know, we have a lukewarm take, we like to call it. It's a shorter version of the Enough Already podcast, and you can catch that over at YouTube. And are we putting that on BitChute too?
Everything, supposedly, BitChute mirrors everything we put on YouTube. It's not foolproof, but it seems to be working now.
Well, you can catch the Enough Already podcast, as I said earlier, where fine podcasts are sold. But especially if you could check us out on iTunes and leave us a review. We prefer a 5-star review. But if you don't think it's worth 5 stars, put 5 stars on there anyway and just lie. Do us a solid. It really helps us out getting the Enough Already podcast in front of more faces and more listeners. So check us out on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, and YouTube and BitChute. So thanks for listening. That's it for us this week. Tracy, you were going to say something. Did I miss something?
Well, I was just going to say we started an Instagram now.
Oh,
so you
can
find us on Instagram. I believe it's Enough Already Cast. I think I had to go with cast because pod was taken, podcast was taken. Everybody's trying to get in on our brand over there. Ugh. And I will put up my my Ripple wallet, my Bitcoin wallet, and my Ether wallet up on enoughalready.us. So if anybody wants to throw virtual money at us, they can do so.
That would be great. And also check out the Facebook page, facebook.com/enoughалreadypodcast. And I threw up a video last week. It was my first attempt at coming up with wacky videos, Tracy.
You did an excellent job.
Thank you. It's of Beto, our pal Beto O'Rourke, working out to the Iraqi theme being played on the kazoo. So make sure you check that out over at facebook.com/enoughалreadypodcast. Okay, I think that's everything.
Yeah.
She's Tracy L. Connors. I'm Fingers Malloy. We will be back next week with an all-new Enough Already.